you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Whitehouse. Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees on your nominations. Thanks for being here. Ms. Cotto, let me start with you, if I could. Judge Cotto, you were quoted in a 2002 LA Weekly article, and I've got it here, about an effort by federal law enforcement officials right after 9/11 to prosecute individuals who had fraudulently obtained security clearances at airports. The article says that at the time, 563 people had been arrested in this particular government prosecution effort. Many of them were illegal immigrants, and they'd been charged with a number of crimes, including false presentation of a Social Security number, false use of Social Security cards, falsely claiming to be a U.S. citizen. You said in the article, this is why you appeared in it, something that I find peculiar, and I want to give you a chance to explain it. You say these are people who haven't done anything wrong. And then you go on to say that they are people who, in the government's mind, are just throwaways. So we're in the midst of, it's no secret, we're in the midst of a very significant crime wave in this country, assaults, homicides, you name it. Unfortunately, we've seen it in my home state of Missouri. So I'm really concerned about crime. And I'm concerned about what this administration is and is not doing to combat crime. The answer is they're not doing really anything of any import. And obviously, I'm concerned about what you would do on the bench in this regard. So let me just ask you, do you still think that people who have committed crimes, like the 563 folks here, references this article, do you still think that that's doing nothing wrong? Help me understand what you meant by that.
Thank you, Senator Hawley. You're correct. I was involved in that case, I think, over 20 years ago when I was appointed to represent individuals when I was a deputy federal public defender. In that role, my role was to do what I did for all of my clients, which was to put aside any personal opinions I might have about what they were accused of, to zealously advocate on their behalf, and to ensure that their Sixth Amendment rights were fulfilled. And that was what I was doing. In terms of the case itself, I do want to point out that in the Central District of California, the number of cases involved in that operation was somewhere around 100, a little bit over 100, maybe 107. And as a result of the advocacy from the Public Defender's Office, as well as other community organizations, we were able to convince the U.S. Attorney's Office to offer misdemeanor dispositions for the majority of those cases, dismissals in some of the cases. And so while I'm in no way, minimizing the seriousness of it, I do believe that as a result of zealous advocacy, the U.S. Attorney's Office agreed that the charges that were originally brought as all felonies, that justice required that either be reduced or dismissed in some cases.
Yeah, what concerns me is the comment that these people haven't done anything wrong, where we're talking about 563 individuals who had fraudulently obtained security clearances right after the worst terrorist attack in this nation's history. Let me ask you something else. 18 U.S.C. 1325 makes it a crime to enter this country illegally, right? I think that's a matter of fact.
It does.
And it's a crime to cross the southern border if you don't go through a port of entry, correct?
Yes, Senator.
And it's a felony if you do it more than once, correct?
If you've been prosecuted previously.
So you said about hundreds of people who had entered the country illegally that they hadn't done anything wrong. Do you have any idea what percentage of your cases, if you're confirmed, would involve offenses like immigration and fraud?
I do not, Senator.
It's 38%. The U.S. Sentencing Commission, and I have the numbers here before me for the Central District, it's 38% of your criminal docket would be offenses like immigration and fraud. And I'm worried, frankly, given your statements and record on this issue, that something that's going to make up a huge portion of your docket is an issue on which you have said that you've expressed concern about whether these things are really crimes, whether they really should be prosecuted, and you just amply described your efforts to make sure that folks were not prosecuted. Is there anything you can say to convince us that you'd be able to do your job here in such a large portion of your docket in the midst of one of the worst crime waves in this country's history?
Thank you, Senator Hawley. Again, the statements and the advocacy that I engaged in were when I was serving in my role as a deputy federal public defender.
Have you changed your view since then? Is that what the implication?
My role has changed. For the past 7.5 years, I've served as a sitting United States magistrate judge, and my record demonstrates that I was able to put aside my advocacy role, and now my role is solely one where my duty of loyalty is to the law and the law alone.
So you would say about your previous comments that these people haven't done anything wrong, you disagree with that now. You acknowledge that violating the law, presenting false clearances at airports, fraud, illegal immigration, that those are in fact crimes.
Senator, number one, as former counsel to those individuals, it would be inappropriate for me to.
On Capitol Hill, tensions rise as Senator Josh Hawley takes aim at Judge Cato during her confirmation hearing. The heated exchange centers on immigration, crime, and past comments made by the nominee. What unfolds is a sharp back and forth that reveals deep partisan divides over law, justice, and America's crime crisis. The Senate Judiciary Committee room is filled with anticipation. Judge Cato, nominated for a federal judgeship, sits under the spotlight as lawmakers prepare to test her record. Senator Hawley wastes no time. He begins with a 2002 article where Cato, then a federal public defender, was quoted saying individuals charged in a post-9/11 airport security case hadn't done anything wrong. Hawley seizes on this, pointing out that 563 individuals had been arrested for fraudulently obtaining security clearances at airports in the wake of America's worst terrorist attack. To him, the stakes couldn't be higher. The Missouri senator pivots to a broader concern: America's crime wave. Homicides, assaults, and rising lawlessness, he argues, demand stronger enforcement. Hawley presses Judge Cato. Does she still believe those individuals hadn't done anything wrong? He drills down further, citing federal law that makes illegal entry a crime, and highlighting that immigration and fraud make up nearly 38% of cases in her district. His worry, a nominee who once questioned whether these offenses were serious, may be too lenient on the bench. Judge Cato responds carefully. She reminds senators that in her role as a public defender, her duty was not personal belief, but
for me to make the type of statement that you are requesting.
No, I'm requesting that you clarify your view, which you made to a newspaper. You didn't make it in court. You made it to a newspaper. And I'm asking you to clarify whether you think that these people haven't done anything wrong, and in particular the crimes that they were accused of. Are those things crimes or not? Are they serious or not? And you suggested to me now, you've said several times, well, that was in a past role, which suggests that you think that your views have changed. I'm just trying to understand where you're actually coming down on this.
Senator, as I've stated, those statements were made in the course of my advocacy work. I currently sit as a United States magistrate judge where I'm no longer an advocate. Those are very different roles, and I understand that, and I've performed my role as a sitting United States magistrate judge for the past 7.5 years.
One last question, Mr. Chairman. In Judge Cato, you were a member of you were a member of the California Attorneys for Criminal Justice, which describes itself as an advocate for an end to the death penalty. Do you agree with the Supreme Court's ruling that the death penalty is constitutional and always has been constitutional?
Senator Hawley, I'm aware and I'm bound by the Supreme Court decision wherein the death penalty has not been ruled unconstitutional.
So that's a yes.
I agree with the Supreme Court, absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hawley, and thanks to the witnesses. The good news is there are no additional questions to be asked. The questions for the record will be due to the nominees by 5 p.m. on Tuesday, February 8th, and the record will stay open until that time to submit letters and similar materials. And with that, the hearing stands adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Senator Hawley framed Judge Cato's past words as a warning about judicial leniency, while Cato framed her career as proof of her commitment to the law. As the Senate weighs her nomination, the broader debate rages on over crime, immigration, and the kind of judges America needs in this moment. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and hit the subscriber button for more political showdown.